Alright, so in this video I want to just create the files where we're going to create all of our routes, and we want to break it up by resource. So we'll have users, auth, profile, and post. Okay, so we'll have separate files for all of our routes. So let's create a folder in the root here called routes. And since all of these routes are going to return JSON for our API, I'm actually going to just create a folder within here called API. Okay, because there's no server rendered templates or anything like that. That's all going to happen on the front end React application. So within this API folder, let's create users.js. So that will handle like registering users, adding users. We're going to have an auth.js, which will handle getting a JSON web token for authentication. And then let's create profile.js, which will have routes that have anything to do with profiles, fetching them, adding them, updating them, and so on. And then we'll create a posts.js because we're going to have a little forum area where we can add posts, you can like, comment, things like that. So let's start off in the users.js, and we need to bring in the express router if we're going to have routes in separate files like this. Now obviously you could do your app.get, post, put, all that stuff in your server.js, but this is kind of a large application, so this would get very long and messy. So you want to break it up into different resources. So in users.js, I'm going to bring in express. And to use the express router, we want to create a variable called router, and we want to set that to express.R router. Like that. Now, when we want to create a route, we don't do app.get or app.post or whatever. We do router dot, and I'm going to do a get request, and I'm just going to put in here slash. Okay, and then for our callback, we're going to use an arrow function with request response, and I'm just going to do a res dot send, and we'll just put in here user route. So this is basically just a test route, and before every route I want to put three things. So I'm going to put a comment here, and I'm going to say at route. So this is the actual request type, which is get, and the endpoint, which will be API/users. Okay, I also want to put a description of what the route does. So for description, let's say, well, this is just a test route, but we'll do like register user, add profile, whatever it is the route does. And then finally I want to put an access value, whether this is public or private. Okay, so we'll say public, and let's just put all these on the same line to make it nice and neat. So what I mean by, what is going on here? There we go. So what I mean by public and private is if you need a token to access a specific route, like let's say to add a profile, obviously you need to be authenticated, so you need to send along a token to that route in order for it to work. Otherwise you're going to get something that says unauthorized access or something like that. Okay, so this is going to be a public route, which we don't need a token for. And the way that we're going to make that happen is by creating our own auth middleware later on. So this should be all set. Let's go ahead and save it. And then what I'll do, actually one thing I always forget to do is to export the route, the router. So we need to say module.exports equals router. All right. So I'm just going to copy all this and put the same thing in these files. So this is auth.js. I'm just going to change this right here to auth. So this is a test route, and we'll change this to just say auth route, save it, go to profile, and just say /profile, and this is profile route. I just want to test it and make sure that these all work. Okay, so this will be posts, and we'll change this to post route. All right, so let's save that. Now we have these 4 files, and we have a single route for each one. Now in our server.js, we need to make it so we can actually access the routes. So we're going to do that right down here. Let's say define routes, and the way we do that is we do app.use, and we put in an endpoint. So we want to do API or /API/users, and we want that to pertain to that user's file. So I'm going to say require, and we want to look in routes slash API slash users. So what this will do is it's going to make this right here, API slash users, pertain to this slash. Okay, now if we wanted API slash users slash register or something like that, we could just do slash register in here. Okay, now we're going to keep our endpoints RESTful, meaning that if we make a GET request to API slash users, it would get those users. But that's not functionality we're actually using, so we're not going to do that. What we will have is a post to API slash users that will create a new user. If we do a post to API slash profile, that will create a profile, and so on. All right, and it'll make more sense as we move along. Now we want to do this for all of our route files, so let's copy this down 4 times, and this one is going to be auth. So this will be API slash auth. We want to do profile. So API slash profile, and we want posts. Okay, so with what we have here, we should be able to make a request to all of these endpoints, API slash users, auth, profile, and post. So let's head over to Postman, and from here we should be able to now hit API slash users, which works. If we do API auth, that works. API slash posts and API slash profile. So all of those are working. We're getting the response. Now, within Postman, I want to separate our resources for our endpoints into what are called collections, which are just folders that can hold different requests. So let's go ahead and create a new collection. I'm going to call this one users and auth. So anything that has to do with, users, registering users, authentication, stuff like that, those routes will go in this collection. And then let's create one for posts. So anything that has to do with posts, and then let's create one for profiles. All right, so at least we have this organization for our different requests. Okay, we're going to deal with this later on. Now in the next video, we need to get our users model set up so that we can actually start to create an endpoint to register a user. We want to be able to send an email, password, name, stuff like that, to create a user in our database. But in order to interact with the database, we need to create what's called a mongoose model, which holds all the fields that we want for a user, things like that. Okay, so we're going to go to the next section and start to create our user model.